Ever notice how, when we turn on the news, everyone acts like serial killers are something distant, something that only exists in movies or TV shows? As if they belong to a parallel universe where human monsters exist solely to entertain the audience. But the truth is, some of them have walked down quiet streets, knocked on ordinary doors, and even shared space with people who thought they were safe inside their own homes. And today, you'll hear not one, but a collection of those stories. Starting with one that never made it to the newspapers. Oh, and before I forget, if you've ever had your own dark experience, you can send it to us. Who knows? Maybe your life already sounds like a horror script. Now, let's get to the story. My name is Catherine Miller. I'm 28 years old, and I grew up in Toledo, Ohio. I've always lived in quiet neighborhoods, the kind where everyone knows each other's name, and where, in theory, nothing bad ever happens. It was exactly that thought that blinded me to what was right in front of me. I shared a small house with my younger sister, Ashley. It was a normal life. Office job, rushed breakfasts, Netflix at night. Nothing out of the ordinary. Until the man moved into the house on the corner. His name was Daniel Graves. Early 30s, tall, always in a cap or hoodie, eyes downcast. Not exactly friendly, but not hostile either. At first, I thought he was just one of those private neighbors. The strange thing was, no one knew where he came from. No relatives, no visitors, no permanent car in the driveway. Just him, coming and going at odd hours, always carrying black plastic bags. Ashley said there was something wrong with him, that she could feel his eyes watching her through the window when she walked by. I laughed it off, said she was being paranoid. Until one night, coming home late from work, I saw something. His garage door was half open, and inside there were cardboard boxes stacked to the ceiling. Curious, I stopped for a second and noticed a dark liquid dripping from one of the boxes. I didn't have the courage to look closer. I just ran home. But that was the first night I dreamed of screams. In the following days, I tried to convince myself that what I'd seen was nothing. Maybe paint, maybe oil. That was the logical explanation, and logic always calmed me. But there was one thing I couldn't ignore: the smell. Even from the sidewalk, you could smell it. That metallic, sweet, nauseating odor. It was unmistakable. Anyone who's been in a hospital during surgery or inside a butcher shop knows it. The smell of blood. I didn't want to believe it, but my body reacted before my mind could process. My throat went dry. Goosebumps rose on my arms. Something deep inside me knew there was danger. Ashley kept insisting. She said she heard noises at night, like heavy objects being dragged, and that some mornings, when she went for an early run, she saw Daniel coming home drenched in sweat, though he didn't look like he'd exercised at all. "He's not normal, Kat," she said seriously. "Something's going on in that house." One Friday, coming back from work, I saw 2 police cars parked at the corner. My heart started racing. For a moment, I thought they'd finally discovered whatever he was hiding. But no. The officers were just chatting with Daniel, who was smiling, relaxed, like any friendly neighbor. They left a few minutes later, without even stepping inside. I stood behind my curtain, watching. He looked directly at my window and smiled. It was a short smile, but cold. The kind that says, "I know you're watching." That night I couldn't sleep. The next day I went to the public library. I spent hours digging through old newspapers, missing persons reports. Anything. And then I found something that froze me to the core. Over the past 5 years, 4 women had gone missing in Toledo. All young, between 20 and 30 years old. All last seen at bars, leaving alone or walking, home late at night. No bodies ever found, no suspect ever caught. But the dates followed a pattern. Each disappearance happened 3 to 6 months apart, and it had been exactly 5 months since the last victim. I closed the paper, my heart pounding. I didn't want to believe it, but everything pointed to him. That night, Ashley went out with friends, and I stayed home alone. It was almost midnight when I heard it, a scratching sound at the back door. I froze, heart racing. Slowly, I walked, closer, and peeked through the small glass window. Nothing. But when I turned back toward the living room, I noticed something. The front door was slightly open. I was sure I had locked it. And then I heard it. Footsteps upstairs. The footsteps above were slow, deliberate, as if the person wasn't in any hurry. My body went rigid. My first thought was Ashley, but then I remembered. She wasn't home. I was alone. My hands shaking, I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. Before I could press the call button, the sound stopped. Silence. I stood frozen for several seconds, hearing only my own shallow breathing. Then a door slammed upstairs. I gathered every bit of courage I had and crept up the stairs, holding a lamp as a makeshift weapon. I opened each room, one by one. Nothing. No signs of a break-in, no shattered windows. Then I noticed it. The window in my bedroom was open. I never left it open at night. I slammed it shut, locking the latch. And on my desk, there was something that hadn't been there before. A small handwritten note. "You look good in red too." The floor seemed to vanish beneath my feet. There was no doubt anymore. He had been inside my house, and he knew exactly who I was. I spent the whole night awake, locked in my room with the dresser pushed against the door. The next day, I told Ashley. She panicked, wanted to go straight to the police. But I knew what would happen. They'd say there was no proof, that it might just be some sick prank. So I decided to handle it myself. I installed a hidden camera in the living room, aimed at the front door, another one in the kitchen. I started watching his schedule, every time he left, every time he came back. And soon, I found out something even more disturbing. Daniel always left on Fridays around 11 p.m., carrying a black backpack. He came back 3 or 4 hours later, without the backpack. And the next morning, he'd load garbage bags into his trunk and disappear for hours. When he came back, the bags were gone. I wrote down every detail, every time. I needed evidence. One of those Fridays, I decided to follow him. I got in my car and kept a distance as he drove to an abandoned industrial area full of old warehouses. He went into one of them and vanished. I waited for hours, but couldn't bring myself to go in. When he came back, the backpack was gone, and that's when I noticed something in my rearview mirror. Another car, parked on the dark street, headlights off. Inside, the silhouette of someone sitting perfectly still, watching. A chill ran down my spine. I wasn't the hunter. I was the prey. I drove home in a panic, shaking so hard I could barely hold the steering wheel. That night, when I checked the living room footage, I saw something that stole my breath. At 2:37 a.m., the front door opened by itself. The camera showed an empty room for a few seconds, until Daniel's shadow appeared. He walked in calmly, like he owned the place, sat down on the couch, stared directly at the camera for a full minute, and then left. No sign of forced entry. The key turned smoothly in the lock. He had a copy of my key. When I saw Daniel looking straight into the camera, I knew for sure. He knew I was watching him. He wasn't hiding anymore. From that moment on, everything changed. I didn't sleep. I barely ate. Every creak in the house felt like a warning. Every car that slowed down outside felt like it was watching me. Ashley noticed my paranoia, but when I showed her the footage, she went pale. For the first time, she didn't call me crazy. "We need to leave," she said. "Now." But it wasn't that simple. I didn't want to run from my own house, from my own life. I wanted justice. The following week, a new disappearance made the news. A 22-year-old student, last seen leaving a downtown bar. My stomach twisted. I knew. I knew who did it. I gathered my courage and went to the police with the recordings. The detective watched carefully, but then shook his head. No clear signs of a crime. He might just be a creepy neighbor. "He broke into my house," I shouted, almost desperate. No forced entry, no verbal or physical threat. Unfortunately, we can't act without a legal basis. I wanted to slam the table. They didn't get it. Daniel was too meticulous, too calculated. He knew exactly how to move in the shadows of the law. Back home, Ashley started secretly packing her bags. She wanted to flee to a friend's place in another city. I understood her, but I couldn't bring myself to leave. And that stubbornness is what put me in real danger. The next Friday, right at 11 p.m., I heard Daniel's car leaving. Something inside me told me to follow him again. But this time, I brought an audio recorder. I followed him to the same abandoned warehouse, waited in the car, hidden behind rusted containers. The night was heavy and silent. Then, I heard a muffled sound. Not footsteps. Screams. My fingers trembled as I turned on the recorder. I stepped out of the car slowly, creeping toward the warehouse. The door was slightly open, and inside, I saw a scene I'll never forget. Daniel, with his backpack tossed on the floor, was gagging a young woman tied to a chair. Her eyes met mine for a split second. Pure terror. My heart froze. I ran back to the car as quietly as I could and sped off. In the rearview mirror, I saw Daniel running out of the warehouse, looking around frantically. He knew. He knew someone had seen him. That night, I didn't go home. I checked into a cheap motel and locked myself inside. I spent hours replaying the audio, the muffled screams echoing over and over. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number, short message. "I found you?" The message took my breath away. I was alone, locked in a cheap motel room, and somehow, he still knew where I was. I ran to the window. The parking lot was empty, except for a dark car parked in the corner, headlights off. I didn't need to check to know who it was. I grabbed my things and fled through the side door, heart pounding. I drove aimlessly for hours, changing streets whenever I thought someone was following me. But no matter how fast I went, the feeling was the same. He was behind me. The next morning, I tried calling Ashley. No answer. I called again and again. Silence. I rushed back home. The gate was half open, the front door unlocked. I ran inside, screaming her name, but she was gone. Only a note lay on the kitchen table. "She's mine now." My legs gave out. I called the police in tears, handing over the recorder with the victim's screams and the note. Finally, they acted. A full operation was launched that same night. The police raided the abandoned warehouse. But it was empty. Nothing left but loose chains, bloodstains on the floor, and a broken chair. Ashley wasn't there. For days they searched. Interviews, sweeps across the city. Daniel had vanished, as if he'd never existed. His house on the corner was abandoned in a hurry. The boxes were gone, the windows wide open, and inside remained only the echo of something no one wanted to name. I became the survivor, the face on the news, the woman who almost became a serial killer's victim. But inside, I just felt hollow. We never found Ashley. We never found the other women's bodies. and Daniel, only the trail of fear he left behind. Today, years later, I still live in Toledo. I never had the courage to leave, as if running away meant giving up on finding her. Some nights, I wake up with the feeling that someone's standing beside my bed. I open my eyes quickly, but there's never anyone there, except sometimes. I get messages from different numbers, always the same phrase. "You look good in red, too." After that last message, I swore to myself I'd change my life. I installed cameras, motion sensors, even bought a huge dog to protect me. My neighbors said I was paranoid, that the case had gone cold, that Daniel was probably dead or locked up somewhere far away. But I knew. I always knew. One night, I woke, up to the sound of the dog growling low. I got up slowly, fumbling for my phone. The cameras were on, all recording, all working. But when I looked at the screens, I almost dropped the phone. One by one, the sensors started going offline. First the backyard, then the living room, then the kitchen, until only the one outside my bedroom door remained. And then the camera froze. I didn't see anything, but I heard it. A hoarse, muffled whisper coming from the hallway. My name. I grabbed the dog, shut the door, and held the doorknob tight. The animal whimpered, tail between its legs. That night felt endless. The next morning I ran to check the recordings, but they were corrupted, as if they'd never existed. And there was something new on the living room rug. A piece of red fabric, dirty with soil, his favorite color. The police didn't believe me. Once again, they said it was my trauma speaking, that I could have placed it there myself. But deep down, I knew I wasn't losing my mind. Daniel was back. I spent weeks without proper sleep, staring out the window, expecting to see him standing on the corner like before. But he never appeared. He only left traces, tiny reminders, almost invisible. A dirty handprint on the back door, an old key left in the garden, a faceless doll placed in my car. And then came the call. An unknown number, in the middle of the night. I answered with trembling hands. On the other end, silence. Then a metallic noise, chains dragging, and finally, a voice. I'll never forget. "Don't worry, Catherine. She's still alive." It was Daniel. I collapsed on the floor, sobbing. It was him. It couldn't have been anyone else. But the cruelest part wasn't the calm tone, or the almost intimate way he spoke. It was the certainty. He wasn't just threatening me. He was telling the truth. Ashley was still alive. After that call, I couldn't live normally anymore. Every street, every glance, every shadow felt like it was hiding him. I had to find Ashley, no matter the cost. I started going through everything again. Every detail of the messages, the boxes, the warehouse. I spent nights awake, maps spread across the floor, connecting dots like an obsessed detective. And then I saw a pattern. In the notes he left, there were small geographical hints, always tied to abandoned places near the highway, old railroads, factory warehouses, condemned houses. It was as if he were guiding me, a macabre game. The first clue led me to an isolated farm. The ground was filled with open graves, all empty. Just holes, prepared for bodies that never arrived. The second clue was even worse. An old railway tunnel, sealed for decades. On the walls, scratch marks that went all the way down to the ground. At the end of the tunnel, a phrase painted in red. "She is mine." Every step I took seemed to lead me deeper into his labyrinth, as if I was following a trail he'd planned years ago. And then I found something that changed everything. inside a rusted metal box. Buried near a dried-up lake, there were photographs. Ashley, tied up, terrified, but alive. Other women, too. Some I recognized from missing persons reports. Others had never been mentioned anywhere, all of them wearing red. But what truly sent me into panic was the last photo. Me, sleeping in my own bed. The image was recent, very recent. I ran to the police with the photos. They were shocked, but said they might be forgeries, the work of some random stalker. There was no solid evidence, linking them to Daniel. I walked out of the station laughing out of despair. They would never believe me. Never. It was just me against him. That night when I got home, another photo was waiting on my doorstep. Ashley, lying on the ground, eyes open, barely alive. Behind her, a blurred shadow I knew exactly who it was, and a message scrawled underneath. Last chance, Catherine. Come alone. After that photo, my life became a broken clock, always stuck at the same time. Fear. I know. Longer knew the difference between night and day. Sleeping was impossible. Eating. Pointless. At every corner, every reflection in a window, I thought I saw Daniel. The police said there were no new leads. Ashley was officially missing. But I knew she was still breathing somewhere, because he wanted me to believe that. It was part of the game. That night, something changed. An envelope slid under my door. Inside was a hand-drawn map, marked with a red X. Next to it, a single phrase. If you really want her back, come alone. I should have thrown it away. I should have called for help. But I didn't. Not because I believed I'd find Ashley, but because deep down, I needed to look him in the eyes. I needed to end it. I took the car and followed the map down a dirt road, far beyond the reach of city lights. The air was heavy, thick with dust and rust. At the end of the trail stood a lonely cabin, its windows boarded up with rotting wood. The silence around me was absolute. No crickets, no wind, just my own rapid breathing. I went inside slowly. The floor creaked under each step. In the middle of the room, a chair turned away from me. Chains hung from the ceiling, clinking softly. And then I heard it, a whisper, low, dragging. Catherine. I turned the chair slowly. It was empty. But on the seat, there was an old tape recorder. I pressed play. His voice filled the room. You never understood. It's not about Ashley. It never was. It's about you. It's always been you. A shiver ran down my spine. I spun around. Nothing. Only shadows shifting along the walls, as if the cabin itself were alive. Then the recorder continued. You're already part of me. Every fear, every sleepless night, every racing heartbeat. I control them all. A soft laugh echoed. Then silence. I dropped the recorder and ran outside, tripping over the rotten boards. But when I reached the car, I froze. On the hood, a fresh red handprint. I looked around, eyes blurring with panic. The darkness surrounded me from all sides, but there was no one there, or maybe there was, and I simply couldn't tell what was real anymore. I drove back in a frenzy, the images of the road looping in my mind. Every tree's shadow looked like a figure, every distant headlight, a warning. When I finally got home, exhausted, the door was already open. I stepped inside on shaking legs. On the living room couch, I found another photo. Ashley, still tied up. But this time, there was something new. In the background, my own house. And that was the story of Catherine, a case never officially listed as a serial killer, yet still whispered about in forums and private conversations across Ohio. What's more terrifying? The idea that Daniel is still alive somewhere, choosing his next victim, or that he never officially existed at all, just a ghost lost in the forgotten records of the city. Would you sleep peacefully, knowing someone might have a copy of your key? Tell me in the comments. Leave us on the like and subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this one. Until next time. And remember, sometimes the quiet neighbor is just a neighbor. Sometimes he's the predator waiting for the right moment. See you in the next story.